Thank you very, very much for having us. So I've been enjoying the work and benefiting from your work for years now. So to be able to contribute to Oregon RTII in some small way is thrilling for us both. Thank you for having us. And thank you all for being here. So to begin with, we're going to talk about structured literacy with young adults. We come from Mountain View's Supervisory Union, and our common value is that success in reading is an issue of equity. And that's quite in line with Oregon's RTII vision statement that every child in every Oregon school district will receive equitable access to evidence-based core instruction and individualized literacy instruction in order to become a proficient reader. This talk is about the every child. This talk is about the individualized portion of that. So we'll be sharing our experiences of helping adolescents that are still emerging as readers. We come from a small public rural high school in central Vermont. Our setting, our students, our scale, and our story will look different from yours, but we hope that you take something home with you after our session today that you can add to your work to help your striving adolescent readers. So to ground our work, we invite you to think about a student. Think about a young adult who has not yet mastered the foundational skills for reading. And ask yourself, what would you like to offer them in your setting? What do they need and deserve? Okay, so our agenda today, first and foremost, is to lean in to the good work of adolescent literacy. This is joyful work, and we hope you can see that in our students' smiles and infusing everything that we're doing today. Our specific agenda, aside from feeling energized and committed to adolescent literacy, is to share with you our program's beginnings. Why do we have a structured literacy program in our middle school and high school? We'll share with you some of the outcomes we're enjoying with our young people, and then take a closer look at what it actually looks like. Our two focal points are effective interventions and authentic connections. And we'll end with a little video recorded by our students for educators interested in this work. And we hope to have lots of time for questions and a rich discussion. When Sherry and I talk about our work, we invariably get the three most frequently asked questions. Some version of that's it, and it works, but what does it look like? We're all trying to figure that out together, and we're excited to share with you our example. In our slide deck, you'll find hyperlinks to our resources in green. All right, so we have two intentions for this hour. We hope to consider the role of evidence-based reading instruction in promoting equity and independence for young adults. And in a word, dignity. And we hope that you will envision programming in your setting that respects the unique social and emotional needs of your adolescent emerging readers. Let's consider how we can equip our young people with the agency and dignity they need to face bright and hopeful futures. First of all, why high school structured literacy? Nationally, we have a problem. The NAEP data, National Assessment of Educational Progress, is often discussed at the 4th and 8th grade level. Not so frequently do we hear about the 12th grade data. In 2019, fully 30% of all 12th graders after 12 years of schooling scored at the below basic level on this assessment, meaning they even had difficulty locating relevant information in text. And as you may surmise, this number hides deep disparities. Fully half of our Black young men and women, after 12 years of schooling, below basic And 62% of our students with disabilities are leaving high school with below basic levels of literacy. These data do not reflect agency or dignity. And we can't say to our young people, when they come to our school, we have a 7 through 12 school, or so when students come in 7th grade, or if they join our school in 9th grade, to say to them that it's too late to help them with their reading. Not okay. Washington and Seidenberg sum this up, and a solution that above all, our shared goal should be for all children to become good readers, and this requires practice with reading. Nationally, we know our high schools have students that are still emerging as readers. Locally, we had a problem too. Sherry?
Right. So many years I was a special educator at our middle school and high school, focusing on students with emotional disabilities with a strong background in reading and language-based disabilities. And as we had students entering our school every year, out of the 7th grade class of 90 students, we would have up to 10 students each year who were at a 1st grade primer, pre-primer level. It was disheartening. And then I would sit at graduation every year and see those same students walk across the stage and still know that they were functionally illiterate. Year after year, we looked at this, we tried different models. I was also the special ed coordinator, and we tried different opportunities. And I'm sure many of you are familiar with this. We use the typical resource room model, as some call it the homework hotel, where our focus was just get them the materials so they can get through the class. Let's just read everything aloud to them, because we know their listening comprehension was strong enough that they could interact in the class, but none of the materials were accessible to them. So we tried program focused on language. And so we had classes that were specific to our students with learning disabilities in the content area classes. Again, we didn't really realize the level of inclusion that we really wanted to occur. We tried push in, we tried pull out, where you were trying to run a resource room and at the same time do specialized instruction. It didn't work. And finally, and we also tried specialized caseloads. My group was all the students with emotional disabilities. And as I often say, it's better to be an asshole than to be stupid. So better be thrown out of the class than to admit that you couldn't read the material. And those were my students who I near and dear loved. That was our fault. We were not providing the kinds of instruction needed so they could demonstrate some level of success. And we tried many different, we bought every program you could imagine. We invested so many, and at every grade level, we were using a different program. It was really discouraging. And so my decisive moment was sitting at graduation and seeing the students we had failed and knowing we had to continue to try to do something different.
So what did you guys do?
And so what we did, Julie, is that I gathered a group of special educators, elementary and secondary, and we chose to read the National Reading Panel report. After reading the report, we created a summary, we presented it to the school board, and we identified the 5 different area pillars that really needed to be addressed within whatever literacy program we chose. And that not only did we need to do it in elementary school, we needed to carry that through secondary school, so that we were all speaking the same language, and all the special educators had the same background, and our students had the same experience, and we were using the same language. And that was really our pivotal moment, is when we came together as a special education team and said, we can do better, we need to do it as a team, and we need to look at it as a pre-K-12 issue.
I love the bravery of your and the conviction that you acted with, because I think most people on this call are in the same boat as you and I. We've never seen a program like this in a public high school, so we didn't know what it would look like. We knew.
I saw really bad programs, and I saw students in rooms with stacks of books on their own. We tried to visit some other literacy-based programs, and the students were suffering. They were not being joyful about literacy, and that's what we needed to change.
So we had a 2007 at the time practice guide, or 2008, and Sherry knew we've tried to teach vocabulary and comprehension, and we've provided opportunities for extensive discussion. But what we needed to lean into was student motivation and engagement and intensive individualized interventions. Now, the motivation and engagement comes from success. And the authors of this report themselves say that we need to provide multiple learning opportunities in which students can experience success. So without really knowing what that looked like, we'd never seen an example of this. So we knew we needed to focus on assessments, explicit instruction. We knew we needed to be intensive, but this part, increase student motivation and engagement, make the learning meaningful, positive, relevant, self-directed, and collaborative. For reference, of course, you're familiar with the 2022 IES Practice Guide. This is a don't miss document. So as Sherry said, our response was to rearrange the caseload. Sherry, do you want to talk a little bit about how we started the program, the actual, how did you find the funding and all that for the program?
Sure. We decided that the middle school and high school, that the best way, based on the report, was to bring a small group of students together. And we're a small district. We didn't have additional resources for reading specialists. So the special educators agreed we would all increase our caseloads, and we would identify one of those special educators to be a reading specialist. And we waited and we waited, and we hired Julie Brown the first day of school because we knew we needed a set of skills, and we needed that someone who was committed to secondary literacy. It's not a popular gig, but Julie Brown was the person who was up for the work. We also chose a systematic, explicit, and sequential curricula. We went with Wilson because we felt we could train teachers quickly over the course of a year. Everyone was trained in Wilson. We were able to onboard new special educators. We have access to their program very close to us in Massachusetts. So in the summertime, we could make sure every new special educator had that training. And then we rearranged our caseload so we could fund that structured literacy program. So this program didn't increase special ed costs at all within the district. It was a matter of rearranging caseloads to address student needs.
Which brings us to our first most frequently asked question. That's all? Over the years, through a series of design thinking, collaborative problem solving, even though I don't think at the time we knew those terms, did we, Sherry? We just responded to the data and our student needs, and we landed on a model that has two focal points: providing effective interventions and peer and community connections. And one of my students has said, it's simple. Without this class, I wouldn't know how to read. So we're going to take you through now a little bit of who, what, when, where, and how long, an overview of our actual program before taking a closer look inside the classroom. So who is structured literacy for? The way we've established our program is that these courses are for middle and high school students with word level difficulties in reading. So still emerging with their minimum basic skills. It's the foundational skills of sound symbol relationships, blending and segmenting to read and spell. Goff and Tumner themselves said that no reasonable proponent of decoding has ever equated decoding with reading. For what is decoded must also be understood. These young people, for some of them, 18 is just around the corner, and there's no time to waste. We created these classes in addition to their English class, so they can still receive that critical, complex text, and giving us the permission, if you will, the time and the space to help them find success by going back to where their breakdowns are and giving them a safe place to build their skills from there. So structured literacy is in addition to, not instead of, core instruction. We teach structured literacy. We teach explicitly, diagnostically, systematically and cumulatively the foundations of our language. We use a speech to print approach, and Anita Archer's explicit instruction has really guided our day-to-day pacing and model. To explicitly teach phonemic awareness, we follow some of the Equip for Reading Success curricula, and we add letters to that work, and I'll show you some slides of how we do that. To explicitly teach phonics, we follow the scope and sequence of the Wilson curricula because it's got the decoding pieces built right in. And to teach the foundations of oral and written language, we use the From Talking to Writing curricula. We share these not as an endorsement, but just people are often curious, what resources are we using? This is what we have used. They're very well, maybe better ones, and we are always on the lookout. So the important thing to remember, and Louisa Moats reminds us of, is that the majority of middle and high school students, yes, they can make significant improvement if intensive appropriate instruction is provided over several years. We've spoken with districts that have said, well, we tried this for a semester and it didn't work. This is a long-term commitment. Our students have a twofold task. They need to learn sound symbol relationships and the foundations of reading, and they need to unlearn the habits that have enabled them to make it this far. When do we meet? Our class is a full, regularly scheduled, credit-bearing, mixed grade block. So there's a lot in there. I'll just share. In this picture, we have a 8th grader, a 9th grader, and 2 11th graders. Our courses are for between 4 and 6 students, and we group them based on their phonic knowledge and what they're ready to learn. That way, they can celebrate their successes in community with each other instead of hiding even in a 4th to 6th grade class. Yeah. And our classroom was right in the middle of things. It wasn't down a lonely hallway. When the bell rang, they didn't need to turn away from their friends. Structured literacy was just another class. And I think that is so critical, that respects their dignity and their agency. A classroom that they can be proud of. Laderick Horn, in a High Tech High podcast that's so great, I've linked it here for you. He says that architecture speaks before we do, and that when we value students, we put them in places in the school which are spaces of honor. And Dr. Gillingham was talking about this in 1956, when she writes that banishing the remedial corridors to the end of the corridor expresses more forcibly than words the lack of real appreciation with which the work is regarded. I feel very strongly about this. You can tell the students deserve a classroom.
And we're designing a new high school.
And how long does it take?
And we're designing a new high school right now, and we're embedding that program right into our literacy domain. So with all our other English classes, this will be right there front and center.
Sorry, so Julie. Exciting. So no, don't be sorry. So how long does it take? So that's a question we get. And I love this webinar from Patton. Dr. Shin says it quite succinctly: as soon as possible, as long as necessary. So I have a little chart for you to share that this is a graph of 53 students, just those students with IEPs. Not all of our students are in special education, but keeping track of just the students with IEPs, how long did it take them to complete our program? To complete our program means they could access text independently. Okay, so 53 students, you can see the average was 2 years, not uncommon for 3. 4, we had a student who was with us for 6 years. That is not a failure, that is a success. We measure progress in foundational skills, we trust the research, and we keep working. This young man graduated high school with 8 English credits. and got a standing ovation from his peers at graduation for winning the Tenacity in English Award. For students that require more than a few years of instruction, they still deserve that instruction. So we keep working as soon as possible, as long as necessary.
And I'm just going to jump in here.
And I'll share with
Julie, I'm just going to jump in here. These students don't cut that class. These students want to continue 1, 2, 3, 4. They do not object when we say, we still need a little, when Julie or the teacher who's in there now says, we need a little more time. We don't get pushback. The students agree. They know this is their opportunity to achieve the success they've never experienced before. They don't cut this class.
You'll hear a quote about that at the end. Okay, so and it works. So here's a little bit of data. Now there's many ways to measure success. I have stepped out of the classroom. So with an ESSER funded position, I have been training teachers in our district. I'm so fortunate to be able to spread the good news of structured literacy far and wide. For the 8 years in the classroom from 2014 to 2022, we had 90 students across those 8 years with IEPs. And we were able to take them to technical college and then go to their technical college graduations. We were able to connect them with the community and equip them with the skills they needed to read a book they'd always wanted to. And we normalized this instruction as just another class. We're going to learn to read and write better. That's what we do in all of our classes. By connecting our students across the school through the outing club. We can also look at a little bit of data. In that time frame, we had 53 structured literacy graduates who had had the IEPs. And again, not all of our students are on IEPs. And 32 of those students had had a chance to have a 3-year reevaluation. In Vermont, I'm not sure how they do it in Oregon, but when that 3-year reevaluation came up and they had finished the intervention, 90% of them did not qualify for a specific learning disability in reading. That's basic reading, that's reading fluency, or comprehension. 90% of them did not qualify. And 65% of our reevaluated graduates exited special education entirely. During the same time frame, the average for Vermont of this age group was between 3 and 6% of students ever leaving special education. And reading comprehension, yes, while you'll see we work at the word level, is always the goal. So here we can see what growth looks like compounded. Here we see at the end of 2022, I had 16 students, we had 16 students in our program. So few because the year prior we graduated our largest class of 11 students, leaving us with 16. It was my smallest class ever. And at the end of the year, their student growth percentiles on a measure of reading called STAR reading. It's our district's universal 3 times a year screener. 94% of our students were growing faster or at the 60th percentile. I want you to remember that 60th percentile for the next slide. And 81% of our students were growing faster than the 75th percentile. Now, what this looks like across 3 years, holding, if they can maintain this level of growth in comprehension as they learn to read the words, this is what that can look like, sustained growth over time. This young person was able to maintain that 60 to 65th percentile range for their student growth percentile across 3 years. You can see for the first year, they remained in intensive intervention. They began 7th grade at the 2nd percentile for reading comprehension. They began the 7th grade below the 1st percentile for word identification and 2nd percentile for sound symbol. So that's where we focused our instruction. By the end of 9th grade, this young person was reading at the end of the 9th grade level. They had sound symbol knowledge at the 91st percentile. and 47th percentile for word identification. This steady growth compounds over time. Remember what Louisa Moats said, if intensive intervention is provided over several years. One more chart for you to look at. Here's a student who maintained a student growth percentile in the 80s range across 3 years. He started the 7th grade reading at the 3rd grade level, 4th percentile, sound symbol knowledge, 1st percentile. This young person ended 9th grade reading at the 11th grade level, 58th percentile, and sound symbols, 58th and 87th percentile. Both of these young people have gone on to be academic leaders in our school. So that's sort of the overview. Who, what, when, where, how long does it work? And now the best question, the one we're all thinking of, what does it look like? So here's the part of the talk where we get to take you into what's actually happening in our classes. All right, so we're providing effective instruction. I love this Linnea Airy paper. The road leading to automatic word reading is not short. But we have a roadmap. We know which road to be on. We know we need to focus on foundational skills. Okay, in the same paper though, she mentions embedded mnemonics, which don't belong in a secondary classroom. But we do focus in on tying phonemic awareness and sound symbol knowledge together, spelling and decoding, fluency and comprehension with connected text. We follow instructional routines because predictability predicts ability for students and for teachers. So I've shared at the end of this talk, you'll see I have a Google site with, I've shared all of these resources with you and tried to explain in detail what we do at each step. This is the 30,000 foot view. This is what a lesson plan would look like for me, for a group of 4 to 6 students. The most important thing is that I plan for success. Like Sherry said, we want our students to be successful. So we're planning instruction that pushes them a little bit each day to learn something new. And they come in and this is what they see. Phonemic awareness. We're using dry erase with letters. We're going to read and read again. We're going to work on some trick words or heart words, whatever your program calls them, at the moment, irregular words. And then we're going to do some reading. Students' materials are all ready to go and just neat and tidy in our classroom. Okay, so steps 1 and 2 of our 6-step lesson plan. This was from Shared with Permission, the Reading League's 6-step lesson plan. I adapted it for older students. That was hyperlinked on the prior slide. So the majority of adolescent poor readers who read below the 30th percentile need some level of direct instruction in 2 foundational skills: mapping speech sounds to letters and letter patterns in print. Sounds and letters, letters and sounds, and the ability to recognize printed words accurately and automatically, out of context and in context. So we teach them those skills. We work on phonemic awareness and sound symbol knowledge at the same time. Changing sounds, adding sounds, taking sounds away, and they're writing these on their dry erase board as they go. And we drill for sounds. We'll use keywords. We'll use drill not for keywords. We do this work that you might imagine in an elementary school setting in an age-appropriate way. This could not happen without our second focal point, which is peer connections and community connections. So we'll get to that in a moment. We want to create a safe space for our students to know that this work is going to help them, and we use peer relationships to help get this going. Okay, and steps 3 and 4 of our lesson plan, spelling and reading words. We know that orthographic mapping is what's going to create those connections between phonemes and graphemes for our students. So we use Elkonin boxes, phoneme grapheme mapping boxes. Say the sounds, touch and say the sounds you hear in blunt, write the whole. Now, what letters are we going to write? Write the whole word, turn and read the words. What do the words mean? We build our own boxes, build a frame, and then let's park out each individual sound. What letters are we going to write? A little bit of that every day, so they're making that speech to print connection crystal clear. We play games, we look for patterns, we play bingo, we do all kinds of stuff. Spelling and reading at the word level. Remember, they have word level difficulties with reading. That's why they're in this class. And then, yes, we do a dictation. Every class can look like this on the left, where we're working on the J sound and how we're going to spell that. So the students write down what the sorting pattern of the day is, and then I might say drudge, and then they have to decide, are they going to spell that with DGE or are they going to spell that with GE? Where would oblige go? Turn and read your dictations to your partner. I love this on the right, this image of two students standing at the board doing a dictation page together and having a lot of fun. What you can't see on this slide is that these three students each had some other disability or difference. You may imagine what they are when you're a teen who has difficulty with reading. One student had anger management, anxiety, couldn't stay in the classroom for more than a few minutes at first, and depression. And as they learn to read and write and have confidence and celebrate and be in community and not be hiding, not be alone in their challenges, perfected practice over time makes perfect and permanent. So we follow up every lesson with a dictation page, and then we read. We read, we read, we read, we read. A third of every lesson is out loud. And we teach our students, and they can say this, that first, foremost, and forever, the foundation for fluency is accuracy. We read from under camping cushions. We leave each other notes on the board. We read with our peers and give each other feedback on our fluency. We read with our community members and we write with our community members. And we read in thematic yearly, usually I have a yearly theme that we have an anchor text for. I'll show that to you a little bit later. So we read texts that are connected either to each other, or if we're reading a decodable, that's connected to the phonics lesson. Again, a third of every lesson is done with reading out loud. Fluent expressive reading is important for high school readers, and I encourage you to read this paper by Page et al. From 2012. In service to support comprehension, reading fluency among ninth grade readers they found was highly correlated with comprehension. So they had a study of 108 students, and they found that the more they could read with prosody, with phrasing and expression to match the text, the better their reading comprehension was. Fluency matters for our high school students. Which brings us to our second focal point. So the age-appropriate group, small group phonics lessons just wouldn't happen without this peer and community connections that we really focus on. And Sherry always wants me to plan for the most time for this part of our talk so that you can see the deep work that goes into this. I love this report. This is Linda Darling Hammond, Cook Harvey, Educating the Whole Child, Improving School Climate to Support Success. We know our adolescent striving readers have unique social and emotional needs. One structured literacy teacher cannot address all 4 domains and 12 indicators of educating the whole child. But what's lovely is in this report, they sum it up in one sentence. Human relationships are the essential ingredient that catalyzes healthy development and learning. Like Sherry said at the beginning, many of our students do not feel connected to school. They don't have that hope to see themselves as successful scholars and that they belong. So we work on that. Louisa Moats, my favorite quote: to a middle school or high school student, peer relationships, peer group status, identity as an individual, and concerns about the future are all important. A struggling reader is equally, if not more, in need of school experiences that promote self-respect, competence, self-reliance, social integration, and peer collaboration. What could that look like in a small group phonics lesson in high school? I'm so excited to show you. Okay, so the first thing we focus on is authentic connections between peers. So you'll see in this slide you'll see a little basket in a few of the pictures. I'll say to my current students, so-and-so is going to come visit us and they're so excited to meet you and tell you about their experiences in this class. What questions do you have? And they write their questions down and we put them in the basket, and then they're ready to go when peers come in the room. And so we'll have high school students say, trust your teacher, trust the process, keep working, and you'll reach that dream of yours to read well. We have students, 11th graders coming in saying, I'm most proud of reading this entire book out loud. Push yourselves to start and finish as many books as you can. We have students answer questions like, I love this question they put in the basket: what advice would you give yourself in middle school? To hear from a college-bound, state champion varsity athlete, I would ask for help sooner. I had to wait till 10th grade to be in this class. You all are so lucky. That just makes all the difference. And then we have open door policy. Our graduates come back and play soft C and soft G cahoots with us. They share their senior projects with us. Hey, I have a creative writing piece. Would you mind if I came in and read it to your students? So we have a culture of success in our program that really has made the difference. And we connect peers with their wider community too. And we do that through yearly themes, where I choose an anchor text and a theme or a community partner to go with that, and then kind of see how it unfolds with student interest. I'll share with you one example closely. Sherry, how are we on time?
We are doing well. We have about 20 minutes left. Is that right?
Okay. Oh, so 5 minutes before, what time
No,
is
I'm
it?
wrong. Beth?
It's okay.
Yeah, you have until quarter after the hour.
Oh,
Oh,
great. We have
great.
35
Okay.
minutes. We're good.
Oh, okay. So Sherry, you just love this work, but we are connecting students with their community. So here I'm going to share with you 3 examples of how we do that and what that has to do with structured literacy. Here is a year where our anchor text was unbroken and our theme was honoring our veterans. And students, we spent 2 weeks planning interview questions, and we invited members from our community to come and speak with us. We kept notes on their interview. We wrote thank you letters that were very detailed, and we hosted them and their families for a celebration of learning night, where students were able to share what they'd learned from World War II veterans. This work stemmed from students reading Unbroken and having the question, Miss Brown, what if Laura Hillenbrand never sat down and asked these questions? We'd never know Zamperini's story. We should do that. So we asked very similar questions. With an anchor text, as students are reading, they spark questions. I didn't know there was Olympics in Berlin in 1936. So we take a tangent and we read about that. In addition to our phonics work, I didn't know they had stealth bombers in World War II. So we take a time out and we learn all about that. And we have that anchor text to keep us moving, and we investigate interests, which builds agency as the year progresses. students interviewed, and we created these posters with pull quotes from the interviews. Just an unforgettable experience.
And these hung in our hallway as a place of honor. So the individual who took the photographs was also a student at the high school, came and scheduled, and these gentlemen came in their uniforms, and they hadn't been out for years, and they posed for these photographs, and then these posters hung in honor in the middle of our high school. So again, their work was respected. These students felt valued in ways they had never felt valued before. It was beautiful.
And this human connection piece, they're hugging. It went from, I'm so nervous, what if he doesn't like me, to, can I introduce him next year to the entire school community at our um, uh, Veterans Day service, which she did that very next year. Um, forming those deep connections. It's not just the skill, connections. Another yearly theme was Still I Rise. We read Maya Angelou's poetry, and a book was our anchor text, Life is So Good by George Dawson, a man who learned to read at 97 or 98 and whose life spanned the entire 20th century. He was born in 1890 something and died in 2003, I believe. This was an incredible collaboration with the senior center across the street. This is what we had in our community. We had seniors that were willing and wanting to form relationships with teens and read and write with them. So once a month, we'd gather our materials, we'd go over, we'd read, we'd write thank you notes back and forth. And then we began writing poetry together. And we published and shared our poetry in a celebration of learning night as well. Beautiful poetry. And we learned all about 20th century history throughout that year by following questions that arose from George Dawson's amazing life. This was just incredible. And then we had our last project. The theme was the work of centuries. One of the fathers, if you will, of the conservation movement is from our town. So here's, these young people can contribute to their community, right? Culturally relevant. The forest is a big part of our life here in Vermont, and reforestation, a father of that reforestation movement is from our town. So we were able to go and see the trees that he planted 100 years ago. We were able to read about reforestation efforts all around the world. We planted trees with the Forest Service. Another class built a bridge on the Appalachian Trail and did a years-long collaboration with our Green Mountain Club, which maintains the Long Trail. It's a long distance, the oldest long distance hiking trail, I think, in the country. We published a training manual for their volunteers, Blazing 101. Talk about paying attention to detail and proofreading and going through those series of iterations with the Green Mountain Club. Just so wonderful. For students in different sections of our class who were not reading and writing at an independent level yet, they were able to document their life in Vermont's forests with photographs. We did photography. So everyone can contribute and engage with our theme, the work of centuries, at different levels, and we're having connections with our community. It's one thing to have a lesson. Here's how you write a thank you note. Then it is a totally different thing. I'd like to write a note to the sergeant. How do I make sure it's correct? Can you help me format it properly? That's two totally different things, and it's that human community connection.
Can you tell the story about the tree hugger?
Oh, yeah. So when we started this unit, so the way we started, Sherry had actually gone and visited High Tech High, and you came back very inspired that the teachers were following their passions and it was catching with the students. So I decided, I really just love Vermont's forests. We're going to do a year on forestry. And one young lady said, I hate tree huggers. Oregon has a lot of forests as well, beautiful forests. And then by the end, her greatest disappointment from COVID was not being able to go to the Green Mountain Club to present our good work. Each of these themed units, I have a little icon with you can touch on it and you can go and see the work that the students completed with community partners. So you can see it's not just effective intervention. Yes, we're learning PH represents that phoneme. Yes, we're doing that. Yes, we're practicing. Yes, we're spelling. And as they are able to access more and more text without guessing, we engage more and more with this community work.
And just to jump on why do I love this part of the literacy instruction is because it doesn't matter what your passion is. For Julie, it was history, it was forests. With High Tech High and that project-based learning or deeper learning, it really doesn't matter. As long as the teacher brings their passion into the classroom, you could teach anything as long as you're passionate about it and students will join you in that conversation. And that's part of the reason students want to come as well to her class is not only are we learning these really hard skills that I've tried to learn for so many years and I've failed because you guys failed me, but I'm doing real learning. I'm reading a heavy duty book. Unbroken is not an easy read. I read it. These texts that she has presented here for the work of century, not easy reads, but it respects their intellect, that they are the capacity to engage in challenging topics, and we bring our passion to the table. And the students, that goes right by how do we make those connections? It's by sharing our passion, our vulnerability, our willingness to engage in this work with them. Makes all the difference.
And I'll tell you, there is no person that has said no. When you reach out, if you have the space and a superintendent who creates this space so that you can do this work with your most striving readers, and you are able to reach out to whatever resource you have in your town and say, are there folks there that would like to partner with us? I have a group of striving readers that could really benefit from some connections and relationships with the community. No one has said no. We have a community of people wanting to help us, wanting to help our young people, and reaching out to them has always been such an adventure. You never know where the year is going to end. So we have a little recipe, if you will. At the beginning of our talk, we introduced these ideas of dignity and agency for our most striving young adults. How do we create a program that they want to participate in, that meets their needs and equips them to face bright, hopeful futures, or helps to equip them with that? We have starting with purpose. Sherry's "that's it" moment. What is it going to take? I'm not going to see students graduating without minimum basic skill proficiency. Studying and learning and then staying the course. This is important. It is their right. If we trust the research that we can teach just about anybody to learn to read, we need to stick with it and trust that research and keep working. So we want to lead with purpose. We want to provide evidence-based, effective instruction. People can quibble and argue about different little components of a lesson plan, but our data will tell us, is our instruction effective? So we would measure our instruction at that lowest skill deficit in particular. How are they doing with their sound symbol relationships? How are they doing with their blending and segmenting accurately when they're reading and spelling? We offer this in credit-bearing classes. To offer these classes without credit, just think about what message that sends to them. So-and-so is going to their journalism class to learn to read and write better, and they get credit for all that hard work. I am here doing the hardest work I've ever done, and I'm not getting credit for this. It needs to be credit-bearing. It's an elective class in addition to their regular English. And we focus on authentic connections between students and their community. So it's not a magic wand. I hope you've seen in our example that this is very doable work. If you lead with purpose, you're providing effective instruction so they feel that success and engagement. You're offering credit and you're building connections between peers and their community, because literacy builds belonging. So now we have a treat for you. I asked my students, I wanted to create a video, so I was running around the high school and I found 4 students that they're going to read to you quotes that we've been collecting. I was asking students, if you could speak to a room full or a Zoom room full of people interested about adolescent structured literacy, what would you say to them? What difference has it made in your life? What would you like them to know? So they recorded this video. It's 4 students sharing reflections from about 10 other students and a parent. It's a 3-minute video. And I think I'll stop presenting because Beth is going to share it from her end.
On what evidence-based instruction has meant to them. These are their voices.
When I started this class, there were still a lot of words that I couldn't read or even pronounce correctly. Now my vocabulary is so much bigger that I'm able to read those hard words, or longer words. My advice to high schools thinking about structured literacy: first thing, make sure your students have the confidence in themselves to know that they will learn. Make sure they know that it's going to be okay.
I remember we did so much work with sounds and learning to literally read every letter on the page. That hardest thing. Now it's just how I read. It's helped me grow as a person.
Everybody has a dream to read at grade level. My main goal was to read like everybody else, not to feel ashamed when I didn't know something. My biggest accomplishment, the one I'm most proud of as a student, was graduating from literacy class and no longer needing an IEP.
My advice, make sure you don't blame your high schoolers. It's not their fault. Reading is a basic skill that everyone needs, and you've just got to find a way to teach them.
It's the biggest turn in my life. Was it able to read easier? I'm going into AP classes. That was not even possible without this class and the hard work we put in together and with my literacy class.
I would say to anyone thinking about teaching reading to teenagers that it takes time and it's a slow process, but by the end, the goal is there, and it's amazing, unbelievable. Always remember, your students can learn.
It's simple. Without this class, I wouldn't know how to read or figure out what the words mean or how to even say the words. I would still be so far behind my classmates.
I started with the graduates because I couldn't really tell them the difference between them. That helped out a lot. Trust me, it's important. Now, college is a reality for me because this class taught me the things that I need to learn to achieve my goals in life.
From a parent, I asked my son the other day if he was still using the tools he learned from structured literacy class. His reply, "Dad, that's how I read everything." Fortunately, I wasn't in the same room as him. Tears started to roll down my face. I will never fully understand all the opportunities structured literacy gave him.
It's been 6 years and I never skipped this class. I feel happy, like about to high schools thinking about structured literacy. I would say do it right now.
I couldn't read before this class, and now I can. What more is there to say? My advice, every high school student deserves this chance that I've had. Before we sign off, one more thing I'd like to add. After 3 years of structured literacy, my quote is, "Joke's on you, I can read."
Good job for listening. Good luck to you.
So just the wrapping it up and time for some questions.
Ooh, we've got some good questions. Can I share them with you, Julie, or did you want to go?
Yes, but first I want to just point out what we have here. Can we do that? So that was our teens call to action, and I wanted to share with you, this is all in the slides and it's hyperlinked. We've shared in much finer detail what we're doing with our students and how we're doing it. And we have a website, a Google site, No Time to Waste, structured literacy with young adults, not for or to. This work has to be done with them as partners. And I have, we've linked resources that are mostly open source for you. Okay, so I think I could, should I stop presenting now, or did we want to?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
So one question, when you were doing Unbroken, how do you make those texts that are pretty high level accessible to your students?
That's a great question. I'm going to stop sharing. Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so our that was the very first yearly theme. This has been a 10-year journey. That was our very first coordinated theme, and that was just with my highest level students. So it was the next year that I started creating ways for all students in the structured literacy program to engage with the text. So for these students, some of them started at the first percentile of reading. As they become accurate, we can scaffold it. It takes us a year to read a book. Remember, because we're following student interest and tangents and so forth. So we scaffold and we learn as we go, and it's in addition to their decodables and the phonics work. So a lot of support, and those were our highest students that read that book.
And do you use any assistive technology in your class? I know the answer, but a question was asked.
I do not. I do not.
Correct.
So, so I didn't know that you knew I didn't. It's about human connections. It's about, I'm just thrilled. Look at this work that you just did. It's about unlearning. They have some compensatory strategies. They can see a word, they know they're reading about birds, it begins with P and ends in N, and in a heartbeat come up with pelican, pigeon, penguin. I mean, it's amazing how good they are at it, not because they don't care about school, but because they care about school so much that they have found a way. But that very way and those tools that they are using are the very things that are preventing them from becoming mappers, from statistical learning. So the only way to do that is out loud with someone who cares for them, to be vulnerable.
Right, that's a crutch that never worked. And we would, pay paraeducators to read whole text, and we would record it, and we used all the fancy pens, and we never, how can you feel competent, dignity, if you have to use a piece of technology when we believe you can learn this material? And we've seen that. There are individuals, absolutely, assistive technology is the only way, but we really think about who's in our structured literacy class. And as Julie really, at the word level, we know we can teach that skill so they can be independent. So there is no place for assistive technology in this class. That was the right answer, Julie.
Well, I think people may have had success with it, right? And this may come to that idea that it's important to just get started. And someone, I don't know who, said it's important that we be more scouts than soldiers, that we be more ever on the lookout for something that's going to help our students, more than defending the way we've always done it. So if somebody comes along with an amazing program that's going to help my students, I would be open to using it. However, the point of this program is to make it special for them, to make a space where they can have relationships and do meaningful work. And they don't find that on a computer, in my experience.
Those are two questions I recognize in the chat. Other questions?
Would you be comfortable if people unmuted to ask their question?
Please,
Okay.
we actually managed the time well. So we have 13 minutes. I'm so excited. Yes, let's get in it.
I have one question that I've been thinking about system-wise. Do you think this is easier in a smaller community versus if you had to scale this across multiple middle and high schools? What do you think that, like, how would you pre-correct for that? I should have warned you about this question.
Sherry, do you want to take that one?
I think it really, how you scale it depends upon your numbers. So for us, we are, a 7 through 12 building. We have, on average 500 students. We knew that we had, on average, again, after being in that building for many years, 15 to 20 students who needed this level of intervention. We knew that we could have 4 to 6 students per block. We had so many blocks. We knew based on scale, we could move enough students to make one professional available, depending upon how many students in your school and what scale. I think it's really important as a superintendent and special ed director to build from success. So pick a campus. If you have multiple campuses that, pick that one that is on board. Go for that long, I always say, take a bite you can swallow. So go and don't, don't swim against the tide. Go with what you have. Where's your campus? Who's willing to have this conversation? Who already has some yes sayers? And my success in special ed and as a superintendent has been have some wins under your belt. Because once you have the wins under your belt, you've got the school board with you and you've got your funding sources. So, my team at the middle school and high school were committed. They knew they had the same failures that I had seen, and they wanted to do something different. And they just tried to do specialized instruction within their resource room with, 6 other kids floating around. Did not work. And so they went on board. And once I could show that and provide that to the school board, we were funding it and we had that capacity. So I would go with find that campus, that school community that you see success, and success breeds success.
I think also for scaling the work, I like that idea of finding success and building from there, because this is something new. We've not seen this or done this. There's so many things to think about: curriculum, assessment, grouping, scheduling. I mean, it goes on and on. You can find something to keep you from doing this work.
Yes.
But the important thing is getting started, and there really isn't time to waste. So
there was just a
started.
question that's near and dear to your heart. I know, Julie, you and I have had this conversation around handwriting. What's the role of handwriting in your class?
Oh, I love that question. Okay, so here's where we're trying to be scouts. When I first started teaching, I did not appreciate the role that handwriting plays in developing the orthographic processor and in helping students. So we didn't focus on it. And by the end, I realized, whoa, we have a problem. All our students are starting their letters from the bottom. None of them know cursive. And so we tie in the handwriting a lot to that phonemic awareness work. So I might say, we're going to fill our boards up with sounds, friends. I'd like you to write down the first sound in every word you hear. And if we're working on sounds that start with words that start with an initial blend, I would read to them some words like blend, print, snuck, and whatever. I would plan for this so that they could practice those graphemes that they needed to learn. For example, one student was writing their Q's backwards. And you could tell every time she came to a G or a Q, there was a pause. She had to put cognitive thought into that letter, and now she forgot what word she was writing, right? So I would come up with a list of words, and I'd say, all right, when we hear and say qua, what are we going to write? QU. How are we going to write it? And she'd put a little best example at the top of her paper with a little arrow where she's going to start. And then I would read words like quintuplet or quintessential. I don't know if I can come up with a bunch of words where qua comes in the middle or qua comes at the end, like all over the place, words with qua, without qua. And she would write QU. So there's an example of how you can blend handwriting instruction with phonemic awareness and sound symbol knowledge, all within the first few minutes of a lesson, and then move on. So that's where we incorporated it. I also had some cursive. Once students started writing their letters from the top, they were ready for cursive. I mean, this is just my limited learning. So we had some little cursive books, and they'd come in, and that could be a quiet get started activity to work on their cursive.
Yeah, there's another question in here. Wondering if you can tell me about your use of WIST. Currently for secondary intervention, we use spelling inventory, phonics screener in the past. So
yeah, those sound great. Those sound great. Thank you for the question. We used the WISP because I had been trained on it, and that's what I had. And it's fairly valid and reliable. So I think what's important is what skill are you measuring? And so we wanted to know, how is your sound symbol relationships? How is your spelling? How is your actually reading? And that test has it all for us. It's quite extensive and it takes a long time to give. So I'd spread it out over a week or so. Some of it we give as a group, some of it I'd say, okay, you guys are going to read, partner read with this text, and I'm going to work on. And what we would use that test for is at the beginning and end of every school year to help with grouping for the next year, to help with placement decisions, most importantly, to tell me, is all my work working? In addition to, of course, we're progress monitoring all the time. Every class is an opportunity to progress learn. Are you spelling QU? Are you forming that grapheme, that letter correctly without my prompting? Right? I've only got 4 to 6 students to think about at one time, so I can be doing that. But having that data over time has been really beneficial. So we can say, 20, 30 standard score points is not out of the realm, it's common. That's why we use that test.
Yeah, that's great information. Thank you.
And I love my favorite assessment is Rosinski's fluency, multidimensional fluency rubric. And we use that simplified versions, full regular versions. Students use it to give each other feedback, to give themselves feedback. I use it to give them feedback. We're constantly working on that. Smoothness, I've just renamed accuracy, expression. Lastly, pace. But what I like about that rubric is you can focus on one component of fluency at a time. And I know in Oregon, you all know and love Dr. Hasbrook and her maxim that first, foremost, and forever, the foundation for fluency is accuracy. So we work on that, then we work on phrasing, then we work on expression, and then we aim for conversational pace with our reading.
So there is one more question about technology and accommodations, and that this is more in the other classes. So totally get why you wouldn't use it in your class because you're trying to unlearn some things, but in other settings, are the students still using technology to access grade level content?
Well, for a lot of our
I'll
students,
on that
you take
bandwagon,
that.
just
Yeah.
again, I think it's really, for us, it was a philosophical decision. So when I was the special ed coordinator over there, we really used technology as a last resort. So, and our teachers, because we were so inclusive, really were often able to provide other means of students to use. So was it a different text, a related text? It was their choice. So we really tried to only use assistive technology on students primarily with significant cognitive challenges, maybe, those kinds of pieces. We really didn't want to reinforce bad skills. And so with the content area teachers, we were always able to provide some kind of material that was accessible to them. And so really try to minimize the use of technology, even in it was rarely, even in our state assessments. We really wanted an accurate representation of the student's capacity. We wanted to make sure we weren't modifying the material, we were accommodating the material. And that, for the most case, I think there was a rare occasion we might do that, but we really try to make sure that students had other ways to access the material in their content classes. And that was kind of a philosophical conversation we had with that as a team.
But we do have a wonderful resource in Learning Ally for audiobooks. And yes, that does help build that vocabulary and listening. And one of the strengths and that has made this program possible is this is a department level collaboration. So in their supported study or in their other classes, if they needed to listen to books on tape, that could be afforded to them. I hope that answers the question a little bit.
Somebody is wanting to know if you could put the name of that fluency diagnostic, the rubric, into the chat.
Well, all I need to say is we literally, soup to nuts have spelled out our program on my Google site, on our Google site. So you can see there's a whole page for assessment. I've linked Rosinski's rubric. I've linked pictures using students using it. I've linked a simplified version of it, and I've explained how we use it. It's got a lot of material on there, and I hope you find it useful.
Another
was in-
whole several hours of masterclass to go through your content.
Oh, and we also have another class that we offer, structured writing. So for students that are ready to focus more on written expression, and again, we'll use the from talking to writing scope and sequence for that, and we love that class. It doesn't run every year, but
Yeah.
thank you so much.
Thank you
This
all.
was
Have a great
wonderful.
afternoon.